I'm Sarah Banks and I work at Durham University where I co-direct the Centre for Social Justice and Community Action, which promotes participatory action research with communities. And our project has been working in partnership with a number of organisations, including Heather's project. Heather is from the Young Women's Allotment Project in Manchester, to develop some ethical guidelines for community-based research. We feel there's a lot of research going on now which involves communities, but there wasn't much help and support about how to try and make the partnerships more equal, look at how the power is distributed, think about who owns the data, how it's disseminated and distributed. So we got together, there's 14 of us who developed these ethical guidelines. Okay.
Fantastic. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your involvement and how you found that project?
Well, we were originally involved in another Connected Communities project with some other growing communities. So there's Tablehurst and I think there's one other, but Spittingfields. And we were growing food and talking about how growing food builds communities and stuff. And from that, we were asked by Sarah Banks to be involved in her project to create ethics that meant that everyone was involved, that everyone had an equal say in how the projects were run, because we found that a lot of academics were struggling to understand the connections between communities.
So have you found the experience to be a positive one? Have you got a lot from that?
I've really enjoyed it.
Excellent. Fantastic. So are you coming to the end of this now, or are you partway through and you've got more exciting stuff to come?
Well, our funded part of the project has ended, but that seems to be just the beginning for us because there's actually a lot of interest in the ethical guidelines. So we've been doing a few workshops. So we are planning now to do some training the trainers events to try and cascade the expertise out with community partners so that they can go off and run events for their communities in how to do research in an ethical way.
Excellent. Can you give us some examples of the kinds of guidelines that you've come up with as a result?
Well, we've come up with a set of principles, the first of which is mutual respect. We've also got principles around equality, democratic participation and so on. And then we've got a set of practical guidelines about how to start off the research, thinking about making agreements, checking out mutual expectations, whether we should start at all and work together, how to include people that you might not normally think of including, and then right down to further on in the research, well, who owns this data? Is it the community partners? Is it a university? Is it a funder? And how do we get it out there? Do we produce an academic article that nobody reads and has my name on it? Or do we produce a nice film or a brochure that also has Heather's name on it and that a whole range of people will read? So that's what's in our ethical guidelines. In fact, maybe Heather can bring a copy of them so you can put them on screen. And we've also produced some case studies which are quite
beautifully modelled.
Interesting examples. So Heather's project is one of our case studies which gives an outline of what happened in the project and what some of the ethical dilemmas and challenges were in that project.
Excellent. So has that changed the kinds of things that you're thinking about doing going forward as well?
Well, because we're a youth work organisation already, a lot of these principles were already in place in the kind of work we do. So it was just nice to then have them formally written down so other community groups can use them and carry on with the work they're doing.
Fantastic. Did you learn anything out of it that you didn't have sort of as a practice? That
on a personal level, I learned about the academic, how do you take a project and turn it into an article and make it into a shiny document? Because sometimes we do things, it's to make the allotment look pretty and not anything more than that.
Wonderful, so lasting impact. So where can people go to find out more about what you've been doing?
Well, we've got a website which has been developed on the National Coordinating Centre for Public Engagement website, which if people Google public engagement, there's a section there on ethics, and there you can find our documents, also our films and podcasts. If your camera wants to look at the films, we've got a few films that are showing over there which feature the projects, including Heather's project, and they're very short, about 5 minutes, and they can be used. We've also got an easy read version of the guidelines which is designed for people with learning disabilities as well.